I agree. Let's move down the list a little bit. I think so. What we're likely going to do is talk about some more FPI teams next week. I think there's as we get closer to excuse me as we get closer to the off season ending, or at least heading into media days, you're going to start having our previews. You're going to have us start to discuss conferences as a whole, teams and schedules. I think that's where we can really get into like LSU. Are they the SEC West favorite? Are they head and shoulders better than Alabama? I think that deserves a more full discussion, and hopefully one with Garrett able to be on as well. But let's slide down to the Clemson Tigers. The Clemson Tigers are the top ACC team on this list, and you don't have another one until Florida State at 14. Florida State's lost some players in the transfer portal as of late, and might have dampened a little bit of the Florida State for ACC championship train. Now I'm still way up in my Knowles coin, so I'm still feeling good. We've sold off a little bit of it to lock in some of those gains, but I still feel really good about the direction of that program. But Clemson being this high and right behind the USC Trojans in FPI rank, they come in at number 8, a full point ahead of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at 9. Does that surprise you? I mean, do we are we that bullish on Cade Klubnik in what will be his first full season as a starter?
I mean, again, you talk about things people we haven't seen it from yet. Cade Klubnik came in as a freshman and did some really nice things, right? You look back
Yeah.
at that North Carolina ACC championship game that I can't remember if he started that game. Do you remember if DJ you started that game or if he did?
I that's a good
I
question.
can't, but for some reason I'm picturing him coming in after a bad drive from
I
DJU
think you're
or
right. I
something
think
like that.
DJU started that like 2 drives in. They were both failures, and so then they brought Klubnik in, but I'll
Yeah,
check on
yeah, that's what I'm remembering. For some reason, if we're wrong, totally fine. But look, he's had some moments, he had some flashes. I think that he showed, a lot of potential last year, but I certainly wouldn't put him over Jordan Travis if we're ranking the ACC quarterbacks right now. I certainly wouldn't put him over Sam Hartman from Notre Dame. If we're just looking at like who's on their schedule for this year. So it's going to be a big, big question mark going in. And, ever since Trevor Lawrence left, that offense has not looked good. And outside of the Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence years, we've talked about a lot on this show how Dabo really needs to kind of win some of the doubters back. And he's started to make some moves that are really uncharacteristic of him that show that he is starting to feel a little pressure, starting to get a little bit not desperate, but the standard has been lowered just a little bit. They're not the elite of the elite in college football anymore since Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson have gone out that door. And the offense has really struggled. The defense has carried them to double digit win seasons in the ACC, but not doing anything of significance. So I really think this is kind of a tenure, maybe not big picture tenure, but future defining year for Dabo Sweeney at Clemson. And if he's able to get it back on track, if Cade Klubnik's able to be the guy, they win the ACC and sneak into the playoff, then all is well. And you look at Clemson as maybe one of the big winners heading into the era of the 12-team playoff when their path is just going to be that much easier. But if it's another year where Dabo can't get it done and that offense just looks soulless without a NFL starting caliber quarterback, then I mean, lots of questions are being able to be asked about what's going on in Death Valley.
that. Yeah. I will give Cade credit. You were right. DJ, you did start that championship game against North Carolina. The drive chart is depressing. 3 plays for 2 yards and a punt in 58 seconds. The second drive, 3 plays, 5 yards, a minute 58 time of possession, punt. Klubnik comes in, touchdown, 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 field goal, and then I think we get to the second half. Yeah. So I mean that if that doesn't like encapsulate how last season went for Clemson offensively at quarterback, I don't know what else does. The issue was then the consistency, right? And I mean, he's a true freshman. He's fresh out
Right.
of high school.
Right.
They get drilled by Tennessee in the Orange Bowl 31-14. The offense once again looks anemic. So you could make the argument that, well, Klubnik didn't have the full playbook. This was a simplified version. I totally hear you. Clemson still wasn't able to do some basic things right against a Tennessee defense that was not exactly known for shutting teams out, right? I mean, they
Right. Yeah.
they found a way to win, but the defense was more the bend don't break mold than the 85 Bears. So I would I would cautiously I would approach this season with cautious optimism for Clemson, right? The recruiting continues to be great, not elite. I think they're a step behind the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world, and the Ohio States. Um, Although Ohio State's class this last year wasn't exactly elite either, but they're doing enough, I think, to win and, like you said, to compete for titles in the ACC. That's really all that matters. Is if they can own their path to the playoff and get in with, maybe they go 10-2 some years. Maybe it's an 11-1 season, but they're constantly winning the ACC championship game. That's going to continue to fuel the program, to keep that fire lit, to keep recruits coming to Death Valley. That's the key. If they somehow start slipping, where now Florida State is winning ACC titles, heaven forbid a Miami come up and finally win an ACC title. If North Carolina has a resurgence, etc., that's when I think it could fall apart very, very quickly. Because right now, of course, it's easy to think, yes, they have a tradition of winning. The culture is great. This is what Clemson football is. They win ACC championships running away, and they go to the college football playoff where they compete for national titles. They had an elite run a couple of years ago, but overall, the program doesn't have this huge tradition of just constantly winning 9, 10 games every single season. I think if for whatever reason Clemson decided to poke Dabo out the door, push him, whenever Saban retires, if the grass is greener in Tuscaloosa, I would worry about the Clemson program as a whole. Now that those are future issues, but you don't. Rome wasn't built in a day. You could also say that it's not necessarily destroyed in a day, and so I am a little worried about Clemson. But this season, their schedule, tell you what, their schedule has a really interesting start.
September's tricky. September
Yeah,
is really tricky.
started to read off last year's schedule and went, nope, that's not right. Duke versus Duke. No, I'm sorry.
At Duke
At Duke. Shout out to their SID for putting versus for away games. That's not how that works.
on Monday night too. So like
Oh,
eyes of
yeah.
the nation are on Winston or on Durham, North Carolina.
Hey, and Riley Leonard's probably the best quarterback in that matchup, right?
I
I mean,
most
go
proven
Dukies.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Charleston Southern, FAU, which could be plucky now with Tom Herman running the offense down there,
Forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me.
versus Florida State to
Yeah,
finish September. Or no, I'm sorry. And then they go to Syracuse. So I mean,
September's
how many
tricky.
September's tricky? Like we talked about it last year with DJU versus Cade Klubnik and when they would call for DJU's head. If they went 3-2 in that opening month, that didn't end up happening. I don't know if they would be calling for Klubnik's head because I don't know who else would come in to replace him. Like Klubnik's supposed to be the franchise guy for the next 3 to 4 years.
That's what I was going to mention because the last couple of years you've at least been able to point to somebody on the bench and say,
You don't
"Hey,
have it.
if this doesn't work out, then that guy is going to be the answer." But that's non-existent anymore.
Yeah. No. So I mean, Charleston's Duke should be a win. I mean, in a vacuum, Duke should be a win. Plenty of room for that to go wrong. Charleston Southern should be a win. FAU should be a win. Right now, I'm penciling in Florida State as a loss. I'm higher on Florida State than I am Clemson. It's a great deal that game's at home. I'll tell you that. And then you have to go to the Dome. That's whew. Things could get bad in Death Valley really quick if you're on the wrong side of a couple of those games.
Well, and to be fair to Clemson, because I think we've kind of thrown them around a little bit. Like we were having some of these conversations last year as well, and they somehow found a way to reel off what was it, like an 8-0 start
Yeah.
to the season before getting
Where's your
thumped in
phone?
South Bend. So look, we were having these conversations that we're having about Duke and Florida State, about Wake Forest and NC State last year, and
Yeah.
Clemson found a way in both of those games. So they have the talent to run through the table. They have the talent to go undefeated on this schedule. But if the quarterback and the offense don't click, there will be some slip ups. I'm thinking at least 2 slip ups that maybe cost them a chance at the title.
Gracious, how about that?